Good morning and welcome to Self-Care Sunday. Today is Sunday, May 5th. I'm setting up my desk. There's my Glass Plus, and if you don't know what that's all about, you're going to have to check out my tips and tricks that I dropped this week. I'm getting ready to place into the canvas that I have on my desk AB drills. The canvas is The Kiss by Gustav Klimt, and I am enhancing the portion of the canvas where the vines are wrapping around her legs as she kneels at the edge of a meadow. And I just showed you my pen that I'll be using. I'll put the link. That's a pen actually that I get from Dreamer Design that they include in their toolkit, which is excellent for placing AB drills. But I just found out that you can actually order the tips from Amazon. I am getting my mat out, another tip of mine that I place underneath. It's a rubber mat, and I place it underneath while I put AB drills on. You can do it with all your drills, but I like using it with the ABs, usually because they go in last, and there's like maybe just a little bit of space between rows, and so I feel like I'm able, if I have to push them in, there's something to cushion that push, and they kind of like push back, and I get a good adherence to the canvas. It's really interesting how this talk came together for this week's Self-Care Sunday, and these talks usually come together pretty much in the same way that my yoga classes would come together. It's like, what are you going to teach this week? And you always teach from where you are. And I woke up at 5:11 Friday morning. I remember looking at the alarm clock and thinking it was so much later, but I had gone to bed super early the night before. I slept with the window open and the fan was on. It was so hot the day before. And the day before, I had a dentist appointment where 2 more root canals were done. And I am still not done with the work that I'm having done at the dentist. I feel like I have spent all of my years on this earth in a dentist chair or running from it. My next appointment is in a month, I believe, and I still won't be done. But no matter what is going on in my life, I look for a silver lining. I've been this way since I was a kid. And I remember as a kid, I would tell myself, don't worry about me. I have a pocket full of silver linings. Here, do you need one? Take one of mine. That's something I say more as an adult now to my friends. You know, just like, look, if you can't look for the silver lining here, take one of mine. Also, as I get older, I wonder about where that mindset came from, you know, how I got such a mindset. I said a lot of things to myself as a kid, and I wonder if I said them to myself in the same positive manner that I tell myself today. One of the other things I would say to myself as a kid is that the truth loves me, and the truth will find me. I don't know where that came from. I have searched the crevices of my mind, and did this come from Catholic school? And I don't think so. I really don't. I mean, I was one of those kids that went to Catholic school and every one of my teachers was a nun. I can't remember. I think I remember more nuns than I do. I think my kindergarten teacher was just like this really Missy Lane, very young, very pretty. But I don't know where it came from. And I'm starting to think that maybe this was a trauma response to something that happened in my life. I was accused once when I was a kid of lying. My aunt had said, "You're lying," and I was like, "No, I'm not." No, kids don't lie. You know, they don't know how to. And my aunt said, "Don't lie. You're lying." And she was nasty about it. And I was upset because I was a pretty good kid. I mean, I really didn't get into trouble. I always did as I was told. I was very obedient. And I wasn't lying. And as a kid, you defend yourself and you deny this accusation. But she insisted, and so did I, which was something you did not do as a kid. You didn't argue with your elders. It was the only time that I can remember of being accused, but I still remember it. So my silver lining on this day of being at the dentist was being grateful that I was out of the house, because I've also decided that all the dental work that I need done wasn't big enough of a thing for me to go through right now. Right after COVID, I decided to break my fibula. And so I was grateful for, being out of the house, and also being in my city, Philadelphia, and walking through one of the prettiest areas in Center City, Philadelphia. I was standing, I didn't go far, I went like maybe about a half a block, but I was standing where the Walnut Street Theater is. And the Walnut Street Theater has been standing on the corner of 9th and Walnut for over 200 years. And I was thinking about all the footprints of people that have gone through the Walnut Street Theater, the footprints of most of the Barrymores and other actors, the footprints of Helen Hayes, who was the first American lady of theater, the footprints of Imogene Coco, of Audrey Hepburn, Katharine Hepburn. I'll put a link to the Walnut Street Theater. I think it was built in like 1808. Anyway, I didn't walk very far because walking around Center City with a boot on was challenging. We have concrete pavements, and each street is under construction or has not been paved. By the time I got home, I was exhausted. And being the way that I am, so morally ambitious, I, thought, well, I missed the morning. My appointment was 8 o'clock in the morning, and I was home by 11. But I was exhausted, but I still sat at my desk, and I didn't do what I usually do the night before, which is get ready for the next day and have my desk organized. I did do some work, or I should say tried to do some work for my channel, but I was getting nowhere. I had decided a few months ago to become an affiliate for Amazon, and just have never gotten around to doing any work for it, because there are more do nots than there are do's when you become an affiliate for Amazon. There's more ways of getting into trouble than there are to get into jail. And, I just I'm still on the fence about it. I feel like if I'm driving business to you, Amazon, you need to loosen up a little bit on the don'ts. Don't. That usually really just shuts me down. And so I shut down everything on my desk. John and I made dinner, and I remember little much after that. I climbed the steps. I tried to watch something on being an Amazon affiliate, but it was pretty much everything that I read. So I put on some music and fell asleep. And I have another YouTube channel to recommend to all of you. And it's called Love Yourself, Alexander. And it's really pretty music if you want to sit in diamond paint or focus and read or study or just fall asleep. I woke up the next morning refreshed and ready to start the day. And I had my journal and, of course, Book of Awakening next to me. And the book opened up to a reading. It wasn't the day's reading, just a random reading. And I do that sometimes. If a page opens up, I read that page. And even though I read the day's reading, I couldn't get the previous random reading out of my head. And I lingered in bed, and it was, 5:11 in the morning. And the birds, outside are chirping. They're, waiting for the sun to rise. And it was very loud outside my window. And last night's YouTube channel was still playing this beautiful piano music that I fell asleep to. And the combination of music and my book and the birds chirping along outside with this beautiful visual photo montage that goes along with the music was just activating my body's natural opioids, which are your own natural painkiller, that I just was so relaxed and just didn't want to stir. I heard my husband downstairs. He was getting ready for work. But I also smelled coffee, and so here comes my other painkiller to my rescue, my husband, and he was bringing me a cup of coffee to have in bed, and I was just thinking to myself, how does the day get any better than this? I remember saying to myself, this is that glimmer. We talked about glimmers in one of the self-care Sundays, that glimmers are these little memories that you want to hold on to when the rest of your day is just like turning on its head. Remember that little glimmer that you had earlier in the day, or at some point in your life, that you want to anchor to and reflect upon that the rest of the day. And let me tell you, I did, because honestly, Mercury needs to get out of retrograde, because it's really being brutal to me this time around. So John brought my coffee, kissed me goodbye. He was leaving for work, and I got back under the covers and I sipped my coffee, and I was, thinking about that moment, but I was also thinking about what happened the day before, and how I just worked myself up, and I worked all this stress and anxiety that I put my body through. Again, going to the dentist has never been a good experience for me. I went from braces to a car accident the next day after they were taken off. And so I just kept thinking about all the expectations and all this anxiety and nervousness, and all these conversations in my head, how short I had been, because when I am in that state, I'm really scattered in my thinking and I can't focus or concentrate. And, having my husband ask me questions when I can't get clear in my own head about what's going on, and like being able to, I think the one thing that I was worried about was, 2 hours in a dentist chair. It just, oh my gosh, it just is brutal. And what can I do to make myself calmer and more relaxed while I am in this position? And I am so thankful that I have the dentist that I have, who is just so very mindful of giving me a break and letting me get up and, stretch my legs or walk around or use the bathroom or whatever. But, I'm thinking like how comfortable I am in this moment, having my coffee and having a wonderful moment where I was able to read and write as soon as I got up in the morning. And the morning is still ahead of me. It's now only like around 6:30. And, I'm in this really good place, but, how it is so much a mindset and a choice to either let yourself be, dragged with your thoughts and letting your emotions run from one end of the spectrum to the other, or to just, let things, I didn't plan the morning. It just unraveled and happened. And I think like the only plans, I drive my husband crazy because I don't like to plan. And the only plans I have ever made in my life is a plan B. That's it. I don't know if anybody's ever said that before, but I've been saying it for a long time. The only plan I've ever made is a plan B, because I'm kind of a like, just let's go with the flow. And I'm starting to think that maybe, the reason why I'm not prepared for these situations that cause me stress and anxiety is because I am so much a go with the flow that I actually want to put myself through whatever it is that I'm going to encounter when I have these stressful moments, to be like, you know, I don't know, build my character to see how much I can endure, or, to just accept that, hey, this isn't fun. It could be, maybe, but most of the time it isn't. So it is what it is, and you have to accept what it is, and just not let your mind, drag you off into these very creative scenarios and discussions and conversations that I have in my head. I'm checking in with where I am here. Oh yes, putting those little ABs in the vines. So I will say that I had a really productive morning and the rest of the afternoon on Friday, and I called it a day. And Saturday morning, I was prepared. I had, organized my desk Friday night. Saturday morning, I was prepared to tackle what I had on my calendar for my channel. I had a delivery that also came in on Friday that I would be unboxing. I had another idea for spare drills instead of just throwing them away. I had decisions to make about what I'm doing right now, which if you've seen the video before this, then that was the past me that made all the decisions for what's happening right now. So I had those decisions to make about the AB drills, which I did here. And I was wondering, was I just going to place these vines around her feet? Did I want to place them in her dress? And if I was going to use the AB drills, I like to do that when I'm sitting quietly. And could I also use that video to do what I'm doing right now, Self-Care Sunday? So you kind of see the way this all played out. So, as I just said, I decided to use the time for Self-Care Sunday. And I had to make a video for all of you that are following Klimt's masterclass series to update you, because I had been working on carving the couple. And if you tuned into Self-Care Sunday, I didn't want you to think that you missed something along the masterclass. I just love that little drill container holding the Glass Plus and being able to, wet my wax that's in the pen. And another thing I wanted to tell you guys, you see me wetting the tip there. That's just to pick up the drill, but there's no wax in that tip. There's only wax in the placer. And what makes that so great is the weather turned really hot during the week, and the putties were getting sticky and stringy because they have essential oils in them, and the wax was getting, very soft and slippery. It even has like a little oily consistency too. My pen kept slipping. It was so frustrating, and I don't know what made me pick this pen up. I think I was just so stressed at every pen that I was picking up. Nothing was working. And I did diamond paint with that pen and no wax in it. And I didn't mind doing the single placing because it gives me time to slow down. It gives me time to take a pause and to really look at what I'm painting and, being really deliberate about what it is that I'm doing. So that's another little tip there for you. And they do sell those tips on Amazon. I think I said that earlier, but I will be placing a link. And I am actually in the spot right now where there were already some special drills in, and they were round, and they look like glass, like little red glass. They're supposed to be like rosebuds, I would imagine, and they're a little bit bigger than the square drill, and they take up a little bit more space in the drill space, and they're kind of hard to get in. And so the next time that I come to this area that needs these special drills, I'm going to put them down first, because putting them down at the end was just making all the drills that were already down just move all over the place. But this is what we do, you know. This is the learning of diamond painting, and I'm aligning a little bit and straightening up things as I go. While I was videotaping the update and talking about this particular work of art, and making decisions about where I wanted to go next became easy to decide, because I was thinking out loud. And while I'm videotaping and thinking out loud and being able to see what it is that I'm thinking about on the videotape, it became very clear to make clear decisions about the artwork. And while I was videotaping and speaking about the lovers here, part of the information I gave during the update was the story of what I now believe to be about this painting by Gustav Klimt and the lovers that he painted. I've been doing a lot of research and gathering information on Klimt and in this painting, and Adele in particular. And I happened upon a curator that I was listening to, may even be on an app that I have downloaded on my phone. And this curator believed this to be a portrait from Greek mythology. And I was really, now this was a YouTube video. I wasn't on my phone when I was listening to this. And I became very curious as to what he was saying, and I stopped what I was doing and really tuned in. But it was a very short clip, but it was one that I had not come across before, and it was one that I had not heard since from any of the curators on any of the works of art by Klimt. But Klimt did have a mythology series of paintings, and even though I think that this is Greek mythology, it makes me wonder why Klimt did not let us know that. But I do believe now, when I put all the pieces together, unless I get more information and something else comes along, because I have changed my mind multiple times on what I think or who I think these lovers are that Klimt painted. The curator posed the question that the kiss may actually be based on Klimt's vision of the Greek myth of Orpheus and Eurydice, and that the kiss depicts the moment that Orpheus turns around to kiss Eurydice as they are leaving the underworld. The story of Orpheus and Eurydice is one of the greatest Greek legends, and I remembered it slightly differently than what the curator was saying, but I did agree that it did pique my interest. So Orpheus was gifted in music, and he had a lyre that played this most beautiful music. And so when Eurydice, his wife, was bitten by a snake and she died, he decides that he's going to try to convince Hades, who was the god of the underworld, the land of death, to let him take Eurydice back with him, back to the land of the living, back to the light, out of the darkness and into the light. So Hades is feeling very good about Orpheus. You know, he charmed him with his music, but he strikes up a bargain with him that he will give Eurydice back to him. But the condition is that Orpheus must walk in front of her and not look back. He cannot look upon her. He cannot kiss her. He cannot show any emotion until they enter the light. And if he does, she will vanish from his sight, lost forever to the underworld. How pretty one of those little flowers went in. And so Orpheus turns around and Hades gets Eurydice. Orpheus has his back to her and he holds out his hand. Eurydice takes his hand and the lovers begin to leave the underworld. They're journeying out of the land of darkness, out of death. But Eurydice is confused as to why her husband, her lover, is quiet and he's not showing any emotion or joy or happiness. And she is trying relentlessly to have Orpheus look upon her. She's begging and pleading with him to kiss her. He had traveled to the underworld to bring her back. He had convinced Hades by playing his lyre and playing these beautiful music to let her go. And yet he's not looking upon her and he's not kissing her. And as we women do, if they're traveling to the underworld, we wonder if he really loves me. Does he really love me? And she did the same. She wondered if he even loved her. And then she wondered, maybe this was all some sort of trick. I came upon this painting by Frederick Leighton of Orpheus and Eurydice at the moment that she is trying to convince him to look at her and to kiss her. And I love the wreath around his head. So let's get back. So Eurydice is having her doubts and she's thinking maybe she's being tricked, but Orpheus was having his own doubts also. He was standing in front of Eurydice, he had her by the hand, and he was anxious to leave this land of darkness, this land of death, and return back to the light. And he was wondering if Eurydice was even behind him, and did Hades trick him? But as Orpheus sees the sun and begins to exit the cave from the underworld and reemerge into the light, he turns quickly to embrace Eurydice and kiss her. He has looked back and he has looked upon her. And in that moment, Eurydice vanishes into nothingness. Being that she is teetering on the edge of a meadow, but still with vines wrapped around her ankles that have a triangle. At first I thought they were little hearts for the lovers, and that she was tethered maybe to the earth. But it's a triangle. And because she would never be free to leave the underworld, I think that this is the depiction of the kiss. I think that this is Eurydice and Orpheus, and this is one of Gustave's mythological paintings. And also because her skin is almost translucent. the kiss may be a woman dissolving into this fantastic nothingness. But it also made me think about what is the moral of the story of Orpheus and Eurydice. And for me, it's always been about trust. But also, I mean, is it a story about not looking back? I don't know. I try not to look back. If you're looking over your shoulder, you certainly cannot move forward. So maybe that is part of the story. But I think I think it's more about a story of trust. And the way it works in my world is the page that opened up that opened up randomly Friday morning was about trust. And I will get that for you here. Here we go. And so this story is a writing by Mark Nepo from Book of the Awakening, and it had opened up to page 127, April the 17th, not too far behind. And it's called a wisdom moment of trust. If you cannot cross over alive, how can you cross when you're dead? And that quote is from Kabir. First paragraph. The need to step into what we fear and, in doing so, disperse its hold on us is powerfully brought to life by a moment in the film Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. After searching everywhere within reason and memory for the Holy Grail, Jones stands on an enormous precipice, a deep chasm before him, the Grail waiting on the other side. His father, wounded and depending on the Grail to heal, cries out possible interpretations of the clues Jones has been given to reach the Grail. After what seems a lifetime of inner debate and escalating fear, he dares, against everything he knows, to step into the void above the chasm, and as he does, an enormous stone foundation appears beneath his feet, a bridge that was there all along. This is a moment of risk and trust, a wisdom moment that repeats itself in our lives in both small and large ways. Over and over, the cup we need to drink from, the ancient, ever-healing cup of wholeness waits beyond some deep chasm we are afraid to cross. Often we are driven to the edge by the cries and clues of elders and loved ones, only to find that nothing makes sense, that there seems nowhere to go, and then the atom of risk begins to replay itself in those brought to the edge. Then, when all known ways of seeing have failed, we sometimes dare to step into the void. Whether that void is a chasm of purpose or self-esteem, or a ravine in a relationship, or a canyon of addiction, this crazy wisdom step that begins with risk and lands in trust reveals a foundation that was there all along, but which is only made visible by our risk to think and see in new ways, and our trust to step into what we fear. It was in the last paragraph that kind of wrapped this whole talk up for me, especially the great Greek legend of Orpheus and Eurydice. Whether that void is a chasm of purpose or self-esteem or a ravine in a relationship, it begins with risk and lands in trust, and reveals a foundation that was there all along. Neither one of them trusted each other. She didn't trust that he loved her, that maybe he was tricking her. And he didn't trust Hades, that maybe he was trying to trick him. And so, through their fear, her fear that he didn't love her, and his fear that he was being tricked, they lost each other. She vanishes into nothingness, and he is heartbroken forever. If they had only trusted that there was a foundation there all along, and the only way that they would have been able to see that foundation was to risk what they were thinking and just step into what we fear so that we can come out the other side. So, if you know that even the smallest moment of risk and trust is difficult, if you could breathe into that and breathe into that fear and know that you are supported. There's a foundation underneath you, and it will rise up to meet you. Mark goes into a meditation after every reading, and he asks that you center yourself and meditate on a chasm of your own making. It might be a trench of stubbornness or pride that no one can cross, or an echo of your own pain that isolates you, or the vastness that builds when you are afraid to tell someone the truth of your heart, or the absence of belief that you deserve what waits on the other side. Wow, they are all. I am a journaler, and I love questions like this and explorations like this. I'm my own Indiana Jones in a way. And, I go into this excavation into my own soul with these food for thought that Mark gives you to think about. And I do think about, even as I'm a married woman. And John has had a long, bachelor life, and I was a friend of his for years. We've known each other since we were very little, and I try very hard not to look back. And I try very hard, or it was very hard in the beginning. It's not hard now because there is trust and love between us, and we are on a solid foundation. But in the beginning, it was, can I trust him? Is he really ready to settle down? So, I had to. You have to trust to make it to that next step, and to even firm up that foundation. But I will explore all these different suggestions that Mark asked you to sit down and look into, and to really lean into it, because a lot of them are scary. I can meditate on the chasm of my own making when it comes to, all the fear and anxiety that I put myself through with having to go to the dentist, and that is of my own making, because I'm still looking back into the past, into a traumatic event, an accident that happened. And I am, recreating that trauma all over again. So I have to learn how to lean into it until my fear subsides. I'm not a little girl anymore. I'm not 14 years old. I'm not, it's not the same thing. It's not the same accident. And, be gentle with myself and see what waits on the other side. And also to lean into your chasm and offer, through your breathing, a wordless compassion for yourself and all others in our very human struggle to step with risk and land with trust. He always manages to have something well up in my heart when he writes, to step with risk and land with trust. Wow. Where am I here in this painting? It was a very quiet afternoon. Even Foofy was a good boy. I have about 3 more minutes here in placing these diamonds. And just like when I think out loud and I can see what it is that, I was trying to decide what to do with these vines, and, and you're looking at this canvas and all you see is a bunch of symbols and numbers, but when you actually can see what it is that you're thinking about, it makes everything so much clearer. And it looks so much better here on camera because I can see clearer the whole picture here. And I think I'm actually, maybe this might be the last vine that I'm coming into. And then I will be placing one more flower. And I will be turning this around for you to get a full glimpse of what I believe is Eurydice. And she's not tethered to the earth. She's tethered to the underworld by these vines wrapped around her ankles. And if you were here for Self-Care Sunday and you haven't been taking the master class, and if any of this interests you, I know the mythology has always interested me. It's a re-energized interest, going back to what I remember, all the points of this story and other stories. But maybe it's just the artwork now, or maybe it is the story. Maybe you check out the rest of the master classes. We're getting ready for the next installment, which I'm really excited about, because from what I'm learning about Klimt's Secession Museum, it reminds me a lot about the Barnes Museum. And I think I'm finished here. Yep. I think I'm going to place that last flower and then turn this painting around. Oh, I decided not to put that flower in, that last flower in the bottom, because there were other drills that had to go around it, and it just would have made it difficult. So I thank you for joining me today for Self-Care Sunday. I will be back on Monday with an unboxing, I think an unboxing, and create the world you want to live in. And I will see you in the next one.